The Office of the Tax Ombud was established in October 2013 to enhance the tax administration system. Now, the office has flagged repeat taxpayer verification, dispute resolution delays and debt offsets as concerns that SARS needs to urgently address. Let's discuss this now with Professor Thabo Legwaila, the CEO of the Office of the Tax Ombud, just to give us more info on this and further insight. Good afternoon, Prof. Legwaila. Thank you very much for your time. These concerns that you have, such as the ones that I've just mentioned, the delays, are they long? Have they been coming for a long time, or is it because of the pandemic?
Thank you very much, Braden, and good afternoon to you and to your viewers. This is, with tax administration, and you alluded to this Office of the Tax Ombud having been created back in 2013. These are problems that have existed for quite a while. They cannot be linked to the pandemic at all. However, we do find at times that when there is pressure on the South African Revenue Service to collect revenues, that there are targets. And when there are these targets and the time is not on the side of the South African Revenue Service, sometimes there are shortcuts. There are instances where the SARS officials do not adequately or appropriately apply the law in collecting revenues. I mean, when you collect revenues, you need to acknowledge that at times you might have to refund taxpayers. So we find that there is a little bit of a relaxation with the strict application of the law at times with pressure.
Okay, so at the Tax Ombud, the Office of the Tax Ombud offers that independent channel after a taxpayer has exhausted all avenues with SARS. They can come to your office for assistance. Am I correct?
That is correct. The point that you raise is very important, Braden, in that SARS itself has its own internal dispute resolution mechanisms, in terms of which if a taxpayer is not happy with how SARS officials have dealt with them, they are able to go to the SARS CMO in order to seek to resolve that. Now, we give SARS an opportunity at the outset for SARS to correct their internal problems. It's only when SARS cannot do that, or there are compelling circumstances, that we actually allow a taxpayer to come to our office without exhausting the internal processes. As you can imagine, in instances where a taxpayer would suffer financial inconvenience, like where your business, for example, is liquid dependent. It depends on cash flow, and you're expecting a refund, for example, a VAT refund from SARS. And if you don't receive that, sometimes your business can just go down. So we allow taxpayers to actually approach our office directly if there are those compelling circumstances, and they're not limited to financial circumstances.
Okay, in my intro there, I mentioned the fact that you've identified issues like repeat taxpayer verification, because there's a dispute resolution delays and debt offsets as major concerns. How big are these concerns? I mean, repeat taxpayer verification is it when SARS audits a taxpayer again and again to verify stuff and takes long and long?
Yeah, repeat verification. Well, SARS is entitled to do verifications, and where they're not satisfied, they can actually do another verification. But Braden, the tax system needs to be fair. Even though the SARS has those entitlements, the powers to do that, they need to still treat taxpayers fairly. So if you've got, like in one of our magazines lately, we showcased a case of a taxpayer who had this repeat verification about 6 times, where SARS requested the taxpayer to provide the same information over and over again. And we know that if there's information outstanding and the verification is ongoing, you would not, for example, be entitled to your refunds if they are due. And in that case, that infringes on your right. In our compilation of taxpayers' rights and obligations, we highlight the right to finality, that a taxpayer is entitled to have their matter finalized. So if the SARS is going to use its powers to delay the finalization of an audit, that could have dire consequences for a taxpayer. Okay. And that is why we flagged this as one of those biggest concerns.
Are you getting more requests for help from individual taxpayers, or are you getting from small business? I mean, you've mentioned VAT refunds a couple of times as an example. Where are these concerns coming from mostly? Who are you dealing with currently as the Office of the Tax Ombud?
Yes. So at the outset, our office provides a free service. We do not charge anybody. So everybody is able to access our office, be it a large corporate or a small business or an individual. So we have a fair share of each tax area that we deal with. However, as you would imagine, there's a lot of there are some taxes that require a lot more interaction. Like, as I said, the VAT system works on payments and refunds. So we are likely to get a lot of those. But then we also get a lot of PAYE-related matters, where taxpayers, for example, are requested to provide their medical certificates, or they are not receiving their PAYE refunds on time. So with big corporates as well, we do receive a lot of their issues, but as you can imagine, those are able to afford the services of private lawyers, and as a result, they tend to use private lawyers as their first port of call because they can afford. But basically, it's really struggled all over the taxes.
Okay, how do taxpayers access your services? You said they are for free. How do they get access to them?
They are free and fair and high quality, but then taxpayers can access our office information on our office on www.taxombud.gov.za, and if they've got any queries, they can send those to our offices at queries at taxombud.gov.za, or if it's a complaint, they can send it to complaints@taxombud.gov.za. Unfortunately, we are still restricting physical visits due to COVID, but with time we will make an announcement when we're able to have walk-ins.
taxombud.gov.za. Thank you very much for your time and explanations. Professor Thabo Legwaila, CEO of the Office of Tax Ombud.